So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome, or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar, brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode of 3 and Out, brought to you by MyGarageBar.com and the Disruption Network. If you were an avid watcher of the show, you might notice that Rich Masucci, who's our normal host, is not here. So today it's me. I'm Jamie Ostinet, and I will be here for at least the next hour or so, hosting this with my lovely, lovely, lovely people. Here they are.
Hey.
That wonderful crowd we have going there. So we'll get right to it. We'll introduce our panel for the night, and we'll start to my far left. Ray Nation, how you doing over there, buddy?
Hey, Ray.
It's the best thing he said all day.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yep. Yeah, it's not going to get any better.
Yep.
Ray is on his way. He's coming from work, so he said he'd be a few minutes late. So we'll move on to the wonderful Miss Erica Moss. How you doing tonight?
I am good. It's been busy. I'm a little flustered, but, we're going to make it all work tonight.
Yes. I think that's all of us. This is kind of weird. I have a lot of screens going on over here. So
a lot of craziness over there for you, Jamie.
Yeah, two things you should never give me, buttons and a microphone. This could be problematic, so we'll see what happens. And last but unfortunately not least, my good friend, Raymond Party. How you doing, my friend?
Good. Got a joke for you. Maybe it'll break the ice for you. With somebody,
fair enough.
How does a dinosaur pay his bills?
I'm afraid to ask, but how?
With Tyrannosaurus checks.
Oh, my God, you have too many children.
Oh, my gosh.
That is definitely one your daughter told you, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Plus, it makes you feel better about how many buttons you got going on.
That's true also. But speaking of things that make me feel better, so we've been here since about 6:30, right? Mm-hmm. And in this last half hour, I have to mention this, you have just an unhealthy hatred of Pat Sajak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It has been nonstop for a half hour. Mm-hmm. We can't even repeat anything that you
No,
and
my lawyer.
Every time you think he's like off of it, next thing you know, something else about Pat.
Something else that it just goes right to Pat about flipping letters. And
well, yeah, well, my lawyer, Todd, told me there's only a few things I can and cannot say. So it's better to be left off the record.
It's probably in your best interest.
Absolutely.
Just because I'm sure he's got more money than you.
I would hope so.
Yeah, at this point.
For what reason, though? Like what? Why?
Because
Why
he crushes the hopes and dreams of all contestants. And
Every single one.
And he gets paid for it.
Yep.
I need that job. That's what I need. So I'm never going to get it, but let's just get right on to football. What do you say instead of our hatred of Pat Sajak? So first we're going to start something up. This is a topic that interests me every single season. We're getting near the offseason for some teams, and of course the playoffs for others. But what I like to look at usually around this time is teams that have been, we'll say, perennially good or bad and are turning the corner one way or another. So the way I wanted to start this, though, is we'll start with a little bit of an idea of what you guys see are teams that might have started off poorly or have bad seasons, but at least there's a bright spot in the future. They have good draft capital, some free agency money to be thrown around in this upcoming offseason, and or even that they have some good coaching, good GM, anything like that you might see from some of these teams that are usually on the lower end that have actually made that step. So, Ray, I want to start with you, my friend. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is Miami, but that's not the one I'm going to go with.
Okay.
For me, it would be Indianapolis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you lose your franchise quarterback who retires in the preseason.
Yeah.
In the preseason, you didn't. I think it was the second.
Usually
to
like
last
2
game.
seconds before they started to play.
So
Yeah.
that should have crushed that entire team. They should have been one of the, having the worst record imaginable.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead, they did the right thing. They re-signed Jacoby Brissett to a manageable contract as a holdover, and their draft picks over the past couple of years have really, really shown up, and they're still in a playoff hunt. On top of that, they're going to have almost $100 million in cap next year.
Oosh.
So you have them drafting well for the past 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
They're playing well on the field, enough to at least be in playoff contention, and then $100 million to spend. $1 million.
$1 million.
That maybe Pat Sajak has too. But
Back to Sajak.
so
There you go.
I just think Indy is set up. Plus, from a coaching perspective, I mean, GM, it's all set up very, very well for Indy to stay competitive. And their Super Bowl window, which should have closed with Andrew Luck retiring in the preseason,
It's open.
it's still still open.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the coach there, and I don't think Frank Reich gets enough credit.
Oh.
I mean, he was like the whisperer in Philadelphia before getting this head coaching job, and he's done nothing but give at least mild success to a team that you nailed it. That was potentially a dumpster fire after Luck retired, and one of the better draft picks, Darius Leonard. That dude has been an animal since coming in.
Nelson, the offensive lineman, Marlon Mack. They constantly hit from good to great players.
Firing on all
Clicking.
cylinders.
They are clicking.
Yeah, they are. What about you, Moss?
Well-
You see somebody?
Well, before I give my answer, I think we need to bring in Ray Nation because he's not even going to believe the team that I'm going to say right now.
Uh-oh.
Where are you, Ray?
He's on his way over.
He's
right?
coming. We're talking about teams that are on the rise here. And I have to go with your Denver Broncos.
What?
Yep.
Your Denver Broncos. Now I know you don't want to jump the gun on a young quarterback, but Drew Luck, he actually looks like the real deal. And I think this is a guy that John Elway has wanted for his team since Peyton Manning left. So I think, you get him in the mix. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, they are playing outstanding. And right now, Von Miller is not playing outstanding. He is due for a rebound next year. And then you're going to get Bradley Chubb back. He's signed through 2021. He's going to come back from his injury. And I think that's just going to bring more power to that defense than they already have. So I know when it comes to the draft, they probably should look for a receiver. Obviously, getting rid of Sanders was a bad thing. So they need a new receiver. But Cortland Sutton has really stepped it up for that team. So if you can get him another target, I think those guys are going to be, watch out Kansas City because they might be a force to be reckoned with in the West.
Well, yeah, and I would agree with Sutton.
I'm glad you're sitting down.
You still have Philip Lindsay, right?
Yes.
So
and Royce Freeman.
Yeah, and so bolster up Noah Fant, right? You have a tight end that's young. Bolster up that offensive line, get a second receiver, and I think that's a legitimate pick.
Absolutely. So I was actually talking with a Bronco fan at work today, and that was one of the things that he said about the offense, I guess you can say, is Cortland Sutton. Yeah, he's been playing great.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
I mentioned the Emmanuel Sanders trade as like, oh man, that was probably a mistake. But then you think about it, you're like, you know what? He had a decent run in Pittsburgh. He had a nice run in Denver on top of that. Maybe it was time to let him walk, especially if you're trying to build, And I mean, Ray, it's your squad. What do you think about that? You think it was an all right time for him to go, or do you think they should have held on a little longer?
I think we should have kept him for one more year. But especially it hurts watching him have success in San Francisco this year.
He had a hell of a game. On
Well, now you know what it feels like,
tough.
maybe in the Steelers fan over here.
I get it. I mean, it's a business, so I understand that aspect. But we could have used him still. So
Well-
I think
I got nothing but respect for that guy, though. He, keeps his mouth shut. He does his job. He's doing it as a business without creating drama.
correct.
So
Yeah.
Correct.
By the way, first Niner in history, a Niner receiver to throw and catch a touchdown in the same game. Yeah, so good for him on that one. But so this is what we're kind of going with. Teams that have been bad, as we kind of alluded to already, that look like they have something for the future to build on. So Ray Pardee over here thinks that the Indianapolis Colts are one. Obviously, you heard Moss with the Denver Broncos. You got one that you think is on the way
I'm
up?
going to be honest. The Colts were my pick, but as I was thinking about it, I think Tampa Bay is really not that bad either, honestly. Jameis Winston, although he's not a fan favorite here, we all know that.
nope.
I mean, he's throwing the ball a lot, but that's because their teams are generally losing, so he's
Yeah.
throwing a lot. He's on pace to lead the league in touchdowns and interceptions and possibly yards as well,
Possibly yards. Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And I think that he's probably just trying to showcase as much as he can because he's on the way out.
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
feeling that he's on the way out.
Yeah.
But if they keep all of their other pieces together, I mean, O.J. Howard, if what's the other receiver?
Mike Evans,
Mike
you're thinking
Evans,
of?
yes,
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Evans. I believe he's up for a contract renewal next year.
Yeah.
So he's going to want to have a big year next year to get paid as much money as Michael Thomas just got.
Yep.
And, the run game has been solid when they were able to use it. So I think, they're a quarterback away from being better again. And especially when you think that division, very rarely, I think this year is going to be the first time in like 10 years that the same team is going to win the division back-to-back years. So they're only like a year out, and they'll be right there back in the playoff hunt.
All right. It's a squad that kind of hovers. They usually do. And this past week, they did exactly what they needed to do despite not having a great record, which is win against a potential playoff caliber team.
Yeah.
And they took care of business. So that was, good for at least some of the party in this room, like myself and Moss. Yeah. Took some of our
pretty happy
AFC
about
East
that.
foes away, our AFC foes away. So now that we're done with that one, let's flip the script a little bit. We're talking about teams now that have been perennial powerhouses. These are the squads that you almost pretty much can chalk into a playoff berth every single season, or at least compete for the division. Who do you see on that end that is going to be kind of in the future in a lot of trouble? I'm talking about maybe teams that have an aging quarterback with no response behind him, or just absolutely piss poor coaching or bad cap management, something like that. Ray Nation, since you just walked in, I'm going to double tap you here and really mess with your head. You got somebody for that one?
See,
No, I'm curious.
I mean, I was gonna say Pittsburgh, but that was because I don't know what Ben Roethlisberger is gonna be coming back.
It's all right.
And
You can say it.
I
Talk
mean,
good about your team. Why don't you talk
No,
bad
I-
about mine?
see, but-
Go ahead.
that's not.
I think that's
that
why
wasn't
he's
the intent. Yeah, like that was not the intent. That's why when she said Denver, I was like, well, this is gonna make me sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, Pittsburgh has been in the playoffs. I think they missed the playoffs twice in the last 15 years, something like that. So they're always there. And with the quarterback that they have right now, I while they're still not eliminated,
Quack, quack.
they're not eliminated.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough. With that being said, if it was Ben Roethlisberger, I'd be confident they're locked. They're getting in there, no doubt. But also with him coming off of this injury, and the only thing we have to base this injury off in the past was Jake Delhomme. I don't know what we have coming back in Pittsburgh as far as quarterback play. I heard some chatter about Mike Tomlin losing his job, and I can't fathom that because how can a guy be
man.
possibly losing his job and also coach of the year in the same time?
Yeah, no.
So that
He's not
makes
losing
no
his
sense
job.
to me.
No.
With that being said, he's going to be now the third longest tenured coach or second. I mean, obviously Belichick is number one right now, and I think he's number two.
I think he is too.
Behind,
I
I think he is too, right?
Yeah, I think he
All
is
right,
too.
So he's going to probably get at least another year to see what Ben does, and then after that, because what if Ben comes back and he plays well, but the team doesn't, and then now they're going to blame the coach, right? Because that's the next step. When the quarterback does well, but you're not winning, it's the coach's fault, right? Because
Yeah.
bad play calling or Well, you always fire an OC every time. You got to fire an OC. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, Pittsburgh doesn't fire the head coach.
Yeah,
It's obvious.
but the OCs, they go. The OCs get well, his bad play calling and scapegoat. But no, honestly, I think that we're going to see a shift, and the teams like the Patriots and the Steelers, who have been predominantly in the AFC playoffs, are going to start to decline. And teams like Kansas City and even, like he mentioned, Indy are going to start creeping their way in, and they're going to be the ones more consistently in over the next couple of years.
Nice.
Interesting.
Nice. Go ahead,
Me?
boss. Yeah, what do you got?
I got to go with Atlanta. I definitely have to go with Atlanta because you've got
Can't argue that at all.
Matt
actually.
Ryan, who is locked into his contract that they're going to have to pay him a ton of money, and now they are negative in the cap space. They're going to have some issues, and obviously them losing Sanu and Matt Ryan. You're paying him all that money, and he's not playing up to par. I mean, you looked at him this past week, and all of a sudden now he looked like an MVP, but it's not consistent. And I think Atlanta is definitely on that downward slide. They're not consistent. They're losing games that they shouldn't, and I just think next year it's just going to be worse for them.
Which is actually probably pretty accurate. See, that was one that when we talked the other day, it was kind of like I didn't even think of them because you think Matt Ryan's not terribly old. It should be okay, right? Mm-hmm. But even going with that, though, Moss, is you got a running back in Devontae Freeman who's he cannot stay on the field anymore. Mm-mm. So that Tevin Coleman trade now, or letting him walk, excuse me, it looks awful because now you don't have the two-headed monster that you can just plug and play. You're handing carries to guys like Ito Smith, who's not Tevin Coleman. So, the Falcons, I definitely agree with you on that one. Raymond Pardee, what do you got, buddy?
The Falcons make sense. I have another team specifically, but you're going to lose your head coach, which means Matt Ryan, all of them need to learn a new scheme, right? You're going to have a new methodology coming in. So you have Matt Ryan and Julio, which you're going to waste another prime year for both of them. Mm-hmm. And then, their career is going to be over by the time they start to catch up. But for me, it's Philly. Philly mortgaged their entire future on that Super Bowl run.
Yep.
They went with the wrong quarterback. They could have got a king's ransom from a team such as Denver for Carson Wentz because John Elway would have paid a premium for that type of prospect.
Yeah.
And then you continue, like we said before, you continue to bring in older veterans like Jay Ajayi, who has been out of football for, however long, 90% of the season. You traded away all these draft picks for the Super Bowl run. Your cap space isn't good because you just paid Carson Wentz, who also has health issues. Mm-hmm. Maybe not this year, but you're dealing with back, spine, all of those issues. And the further he goes along, the worse it's going to get for him. He doesn't have receivers that he can throw to. You can forget Alshon Jeffrey. You can forget Aguilar. It's just not working out. All he has is Zach Ertz, and that's all he throws to. And anybody that watched the game last night, who did he throw to?
Zach Ertz when it mattered.
And if you're having trouble with the Giants of this year already, and it takes you to go to overtime to beat them, you have problems. You have huge, huge problems.
Yeah, and that actually was a fairly dominant game by the Giants.
Exactly.
Up until, 20 minutes left of the game, roughly, before Philadelphia decided to spin it around and actually play like a team that Philadelphia was one of the better-looking teams coming in this year. A lot of people picked them to win the East even, or at least compete with Dallas. They're competing.
They are.
They're competing with Dallas, but not because of supreme play.
No, because Dallas sinks too.
Yeah, nobody wants that division.
No.
They've almost handed Washington a shot at it at some point throughout the season, which is just absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
Can I mention a team that I know you and I talked about, Jamie, about not necessarily ever been in the playoff hunt, but had so much hope and just fell apart, and that's the Jets.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, getting Le'Veon Bell,
Ray's very happy over
Sam Darnold. You thought they had all this potential in the world, and they suck. Absolutely suck. That's all I can say about them. I have nothing else.
You don't even need analysis on that because that's about as good as it gets. And that is actually going to be part of the next point that I had with this. Because last year when I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what? I know Buffalo's not playing well, and I'm a homer, of course, but I'm like, they're making some good moves. They have the cap space. They're trying to draft correctly. They got a different culture in the building, and I thought they'd be a team on the rise. I thought the Jets would be as well.
Absolutely.
The difference is they took all that cap space, and pretty much mortgaged it on high price free agents that just aren't producing. You mentioned Bell already. So now they're cap strapped. So the next point I was going to ask you guys, is there another team that you see that had their chance or had their window and completely airballed? Who missed outside of the Jets, of course? You got anybody, Ray?
That completely missed?
Yeah. I love how both Rays. First off, I didn't specify, but you actually said the same sentence.
Well, it's because, I mean, when you think completely missed.
Yeah.
Yeah. My problem with the Jets is, yes, they suck now. It's all Adam Gase. Get rid of him.
That's
you
true.
still have cap space because you're not paying Darnold yet.
But you got to get an offensive line.
Right.
If you don't get an
Offensive
offensive line, you're not going to do anything.
He needs a legitimate weapon besides Robbie Anderson, who's going to be a free agent, and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You still have all of your draft picks, right? Because you went the free agent route. You went the mercenary route.
Yep.
You can still salvage all of this because you're still not paying Darnold yet.
Not yet. You got,
Right.
what, 3
So you
years?
got-
Well, 3 years
got a
if you
couple
take
more
the
years.
option, yeah.
If you do not get rid of Adam Gase right now, he's going to ruin your franchise, trade all of your players that you just paid premiums for,
Mm-hmm.
and you get nothing back for it. So I don't think they're completely out of it. I think it is. I was glad that Adam Gase went to the Jets. Let's just put it
I
that
bet you were.
I think Washington has no direction whatsoever.
That's true.
They need Dan Snyder. I don't know what he's doing. I like Geis. I like the receiver. I can't think of his name right now.
McLaurin,
McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin, I think it is. Yeah.
Threw Dwayne Haskins in there with zero offensive line.
Yeah.
And they kind of have a no-name defense. But I think as long as Daniel Snyder's there, you're not going anywhere.
Kind of like spinning the wheels a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Ray Nation, do you see anybody else or anything else to add to that?
You know, I was thinking, I wanted to say Jacksonville, but at the same time, I think they have a couple of picks coming up next year. So,
Oh, they do from the
I mean, they
trade.
dropped the
Yeah,
ball
trade-
this
the
year.
trade they got.
I mean, I think that Nick Foles getting hurt so early kind of put a damper, and which is probably what caused players like Jalen Ramsey to be like, no, I want out. And then they traded him, and they kind of dumped their squad. So this year was kind of more of a...
Yeah, but their defense dropped the ball.
Yeah, the defense
Sure.
is not what it... Remember 2 years ago, we were looking at that defense, and we were like,
This is legit.
they were ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were insane.
And now you're looking at them like, I'm not scared of that. I play
No.
go against them all day, like, you know. So
yeah.
I think Jacksonville, but also I kind of want to blame that on just Tom Coughlin. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he just not a great.
everything he touches.
He's technically he's a VP technically.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Doug Marone's the coach.
Yeah,
He's
so
not doing well.
yeah. Well, Doug Marone, he shouldn't be.
He should like he shouldn't have gotten another coaching job
No,
after Buffalo.
no,
so
he should not.
I liked what he did in Buffalo when he was there because he actually turned it around a little bit with Kyle Orton. I mean, trust me, that's not striking fear in the hearts of the wicked. But the man walked away. You know, like, pretty much still under contract. Just said, "Nah, I'm good, thanks," and just left.
Yeah.
And then Jacksonville gave him a job. Like right off the bat, I went, "That's not the guy that you want to run your franchise." If even when things are looking up, you walk away. That just makes no sense to me. Which that was a big miss then when he did it to Buffalo because that set them back 4 years right off the bat.
Chargers missed the window. Detroit missed the window.
I think the Chargers they're definitely one of those teams to throw in there because I don't know what type of direction they have after Phillip Rivers. I mean, there's been back-to-back drafts where you can argue there was some very quality quarterbacks that came out of it. I mean, sure, time will tell if we're actually right or not, but nobody's doing the old Aaron Rodgers thing. Like when Brett Favre was in Green Bay, they draft Aaron Rodgers, they let him learn under him for like 3 years, and then send him out. You know, nobody's
Look what that did for him.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You know, and it did wonders. But nobody's preparing that way. So I would definitely agree with the Chargers being one of those
Detroit.
squads.
Detroit, definitely.
Yeah, Detroit's in
I
the
feel
Atlanta
bad
category.
for Detroit. I don't know what happened. They were playing, even though they weren't winning at the beginning of the season, they were playing every team very tough. And they fell apart.
Fell apart is an understatement because now they're not even playing anybody tough. They're actually losing the teams they should beat.
Exactly.
Right.
One that I would actually say, it's just funny because I don't know what category that they fit in, would be the Arizona Cardinals. And I think they just missed just for one reason. They went out and drafted their guy last year in Josh Rosen and then pretty much gave him a year and said, we're done with you already, fired their first-year head coach, traded him obviously to Miami, and went out and drafted Kyler Murray. So basically, you didn't even do anything. You had no direction there. You basically just reset and wasted a year. and now you're back where you started,
To be fair, though, people want Trubisky gone.
which is true.
Right. So then if you know that far in advance, because Rosen hasn't done anything in Miami either.
No, that's true.
So
Yep.
if you know that far in advance and you hear people calling for Trubisky all the time, he's asking to have the TVs turned in Chicago off because he's tired of hearing it. But so you're
That's
kind
right.
of you're kind of in a
Sorry.
different scenario, right? So if you know ahead of time that Rosen is not the guy, let's just reboot. We messed up. We get a second round pick for him. Okay. And then now they have some fight in them. They're playing teams tough.
They are. I will say that
So-
they are doing that.
Kudos to them for recognizing it early, and then shame on Chicago for not doing that if that's the route you want to go.
Yeah, that's true, though. Although Trubisky's played better of late, but you're right. I mean, fans along everybody are calling for his head in Mitch Trubisky. And he's had his third year. We're seeing a regress. So, yeah, I mean, I can understand that one at least a little bit. Even with Arizona, they saw something in Rosen they hated and walked away.
You're welcome, Pat Sajak.
Back
you
to
missed this whole
oh
thing.
my God, Pat Sajak is it's literally like the only thing Ray thinks about.
He's my mortal enemy. Yeah.
And they've never met. It's ridiculous. So, with that, thankfully and mercifully, we're going to end this first down before Ray goes on a tangent again. So, Moss, you got some trivia for us
I
today?
do have some trivia for us.
Excellent. All right, here we go with Moss's Mindbender.
All right, well, here we go with this week's Moss's Mindbender trivia question of the week. We've got a really big game this Thursday night between the Baltimore Ravens against the New York Jets. That ought to be a big one. Guess who's going to win that one? But my question to you guys is, what was the original name of the New York Jets? Again, what was the original name of the New York Jets? We're going to find out that answer right after the break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome, or visit us online at NyeVWofRome.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.
Welcome back to the second down of 3 and Out, brought to you by Disruption Network and MyGarageBar.com. So before the break, I hit you with my Moss's Mindbender. That question was, what was the original name of the New York Jets? The answer is the Titans of New York. They were originally founded in 1959. The name was changed to the New York Jets in 1963 under a new ownership. So there you have it, folks. This week's Moss's Mindbender.
There you go.
There you go.
New York Titans.
Hey.
If I remember
The
right,
Titans of New York.
That's where they got the nasty blue and gold jerseys.
Yep.
That they
Yep.
wear. That's like their alternate now. Yeah, they're hideous. They make no sense, especially when they wear those jerseys with the green helmets. You ever see that crap?
No.
Oh, please no.
I hate those.
It
I
was the
absolutely
weirdest
hate
thing.
those.
Yeah. Oh, they're abysmal. It's so bad. It's so
Oh, it's
bad.
the Jets.
It's also the Jets. They're shelling out $100 million to Le'Veon Bell.
Ray, I think you have a friend.
CJ Mosley.
You have a Steve. You have a friend, Steve.
Yep.
He's chiming into you.
Oh, what did he say?
Oh, he got the answer. Good job, Steve.
hey,
you
all
got,
right.
Oh,
There you
got
go.
the answer.
Good work on that one.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'm trying to know how to pronounce his name.
Petronella.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shout out, Steve.
There you go. Thanks for listening, Steve.
Yeah.
Especially to watch Ray Party's ugly mug on the camera.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, he gets mine like face value, and that's real. I do have a face for radio. I'm just throwing that out there. And a
Right.
personality for
But I had to cover up my job because I have a hoodie from my work. Otherwise, I'd have a harem. It'd be crazy.
Oh,
I
it'd just
don't-
be,
you don't wanna do that.
things thrown at you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'd be terrible. Back to football,
Yeah,
everybody. All right, for a second down, this is what we're going to be aiming at. So I'm just going to we'll play a little game here. I'm going to rattle off a list of
Love games.
quarterbacks / coaches. I mean, it's going to be kind of rapid fire almost. And these are guys that are either on the chopping block or they're expiring contracts, but there's been some type of rumor about them. So I'm more curious as to what you guys think, if they're going to stick around and re-up with whatever team that they're currently playing for, or if they're going to end up somewhere else or retire. And if they do end up somewhere else, where are they going to end up? So we'll start with them because we just watched him last night. We're going to start with Eli Manning, and Moss, give us a shot. What do you think
Listen.
about Eli?
I was originally thinking before last night that, okay, let's just let him finish out the year and he'll retire. But I don't think that the Giants want him to play again next year. But I don't think he played last night like a quarterback that wants to give up.
Well, that's true.
So I think that maybe he might be going to a team that is in desperate need for any type of quarterback on their team. So I'm going to say maybe Chicago.
Chicago. All right. Any disagreements or thoughts on that from the Rays?
I think he has to retire.
I'd rather see him retire.
Only because I think that at this point, there's nothing else Eli's going to do going forward in his career that's going to better his Hall of Fame
He's a Hall of Fame
possibility. He's going to be a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Correct. And there's nothing he's going to do going to like Chicago. He's not going to turn them around, and all of a sudden they are going to be a playoff team. And he's definitely better than Mitch Trubisky, but no, I think he should just accept that his time in New York was done. He played for a very difficult franchise for 17 years and hang it up.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm down with the retire route. He literally said he either wants to be a starting quarterback or he doesn't want to play.
Oof.
And then you can go down the list of teams that would rather take a draft pick at this point in time than Eli Manning.
I think there's a majority that would. We've seen a little bit more of a resurgence of younger quarterbacks too over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And then-
you know what? Denver's helping this cause too because Drew Lock has played outstanding for 2 weeks. At least this past week, I thought he was incredible against a Houston team that just really put it on New England. So, I think the younger route is the one that everybody wants to hit.
Well, that's because that cap hit doesn't hit for the first 5 years. If you do the first round and 4 years after that. So, and the thing is, you would look at a team like Jacksonville that could potentially have a quarterback controversy, but would you rather have Minshew or would you rather have Eli?
That's a good question. So while we're on that subject,
Well, first we just have to, if you're out there, retire, win the next 3 games, and then just call it quits on the
call
high
it a
note.
day.
Just not this week. He can't win this week.
Oh, okay. I'm
playing the
sorry.
Dolphins, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yep.
Correct.
So, but no, you're right. And Ray Nation, you're already nailing it. I don't think he betters anything that he did in those Super Bowl runs.
Correct.
I mean,
think it's I mean, I feel like it could only get worse. And then, like, I feel like if he goes to a place like Chicago and he's not successful there, then all of a sudden he's the scapegoat and they blame him. Oh, Eli should have retired when he was in New York. Blah blah blah. He just brought his terrible play to Chicago. Save it.
Should
Let them-
have kept with Mitchell.
He could coach,
Don't
though,
go
right?
through
He
it.
could definitely quarterbacks coach. He's been professional his entire career. He's never thrown any jabs, playing in the biggest market that has roasted him for years.
Yes,
Oh
he's
my
for
God!
years.
Maybe he
I
could do
think he's been
commercials.
roasted since he was drafted.
Right. He's a consummate professional,
Yep.
and he's smart enough that he can go coach somewhere. I don't know if he could do commentary. Like, I think Peyton could do that.
Yeah, he's got. the
He could do
personality.
commercials, though, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's the route he goes from a coaching perspective.
I could see him doing commercials.
There you go.
Yeah.
That works.
See that?
Following the
Yeah, Baker does
steps.
commercials too.
His are pretty funny though, despite his personality. I actually enjoy some of them. Some. He can stick to commercials, not playing
Yep.
football anymore.
Maybe game show host.
Something like that. Anything like that. Pat Sajak needs a replacement by any chance?
100%.
There you go. So, you know what? You guys picked two teams that I actually was thinking about already. So we'll start with the first one that Moss mentioned in the Chicago Bears and Mitch Trubisky. Now, I know the dude's only in his third year. So that means that they have a fourth year. Plus, if they feel up to it, you always have the fifth-year option. That's usually a team option if they want to exercise it or not. But people are calling for him to be gone before the end of the season as it is. So where does Mitch Trubisky end up next season? Ray Pardee, fire away, man.
He stays. I mean, from an option perspective, you can pick up a Cam Newton. You can pick up another free agent quarterback. And if you couple that salary with Trubisky's, you'll be fine. You're still paying less than you're going to be paying Dak Prescott. So, hey, there's no harm in keeping Trubisky, getting a free agent quarterback. He's only costing you $9 million a year.
Which is
So
pennies
then
for the
get the
QB
free
market,
agent
yeah.
quarterback. If the free agent quarterback is working out for you, then trade Trubisky. Get something back for him at that point in time, and you're not crushing your salary cap.
There you go. All right. Anybody else thoughts on Trubisky?
I think maybe he'll probably be sitting in with us next season.
As long as he doesn't take the hosting job. I like the buttons. There's so many buttons.
No, I agree with Ray. They'll just keep him another year on that rookie contract and hopefully put somebody else in there to. But I don't see him starting though. I think they got to start somebody else.
Yeah, I
That's a possibility.
I could see that too. I could see them actually bringing in an undervalued vet or something like that, like what we've seen in the past with Case Keenum, for example. Not to say that he's great by any stretch of the means, but bringing him in just to force competition at least, and then whoever wins the job wins the job. Although
Maybe he needs that.
they tried that with Matt
He
Glenn,
could.
that
I mean,
failed.
because we were bringing up the topic of Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. Maybe Trubisky does need to sit, and then who knows what happens after that?
Yeah.
Especially if you get a professional quarterback coming in from a mentor perspective, that could work out for him.
That's true. That's true. Now, the other name you guys mentioned in the first part with the Eli thing, we're going to go to that. We got to go to Jacksonville. We got to go down south here for this one. Gardner Minshew just comes back in. Now, granted, they played like garbage this past weekend. Jacksonville just did not show up for this game. But obviously, there's got to be an issue with Foles going out, then Minshew mania starting. And now Foles was so bad, despite the money, that they didn't even give him a fair shake at the job after this. And now it's right back to Gardner Minshew. So I ask you guys, where does Nick Foles end up? Ray Nation, thought.
He'll be right there.
Yep.
They paid way too much for him. He's got to be there for at least another year, a full year. And if he plays poorly for the full year, then they might look at options to get rid of him. But he'll be there for sure next year.
They unfortunately will be with him. You would think that the Jacksonville would have learned from the Blake Bortles situation. 3-year, $54 million for Bortles. Then they sign Foles, 4-year, $88 million, 50 guaranteed. Just why didn't you learn the first time? So unfortunately, they are going to be stuck with him for another year because I don't see them being able to trade him for the value that they're going to want. But I like Gardner Minshew the second or third or whatever he is. So I think that they really should just stick with him and give him a defense to play well. Or play at all, I should
Play at all to anywhere near the level from 2
Yes,
years ago,
exactly.
especially with the same players. That just makes no sense.
because he has some weapons. He has some very young weapons that I think that they could build off of. So just let him go.
Let him go.
See what he can do.
Get a little chemistry with DJ Chark, for example.
Yeah.
Dude's, yeah.
Finally wake up D.D. Westbrook because I don't know what's going on with him.
He fell asleep.
Yeah, he's
He's been
good.
sleeping since he got drafted for the most part, outside of a handful of games.
So from a quarterback perspective, there's always a sucker when it comes to a team.
Yeah.
Philly happens to be that sucker, especially from a Nick Foles perspective. You still have all of the same people there from the Super Bowl run that worship him. So I think it goes along. Foles will be there for a little while, and then Philly's going to trade for him and do the same thing that they've been.
Wow.
That's the only.
That's
That's the
interesting.
only place that would want
To take a
Foles.
chance at
To
that
take
point.
yeah.
Which I could kind of see that, especially with Wentz. Now he's pushing that weird area. I know they extended him, at least Carson Wentz. They gave him way too much money.
A lot.
But you could almost see a player for player thing, which we don't see often. Maybe a Wentz for Foles.
No, I think you're looking at a 3-team deal because there's a sucker for Wentz, and that would probably be Vegas.
Oh yeah, we got to. It's going to be the Vegas Raiders at that point.
Because you know how much Gruden loves quarterbacks. By the way, that's a franchise on the rise. I would like to point that out. From a draft perspective, they're doing really well.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I mean, he loves quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Wentz could fit in Vegas.
All right. So, well,
Interesting.
the next couple we're going to do a tandem, and I can guarantee one of these guys is gone at least. So that way we can kind of move on that. I'm going to start with Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill. Now Tannehill's come in and has actually looked like a quarterback that Miami's wanted for 8 years.
Right here.
Sorry, man. That wasn't meant to be a jab at you.
It was.
It was more or less meant to be a jab at Ryan Tannehill for waiting 8 damn years before he decided to actually make a decent run at anything. Mariota, obviously the 5-year starter there in Tennessee, they finally had enough of just mediocrity. So I ask you both, or all three of you, I should say, where do both of these guys end up? Who stays? Who goes? Are either of them around? Moss, give it a shot.
I think Mariota's gone, and I think if Tennessee, it can't happen because that would mean that my team does make it. So, but if they even come close, which they're already right there to the playoffs, I think you give Tannehill another year.
Any thoughts? You saw
I do.
Tannehill.
Yeah.
I do. So I think they're going to give Tannehill a long-term contract.
Wow.
I think they are ecstatic. I think they're on a 4 or 5 game win streak. He's crushing in the red zone. He's making all the throws. He has a legit run game that takes pressure off him, which he didn't have in Miami.
Very
He
true.
has legit coaches, which he didn't have in Miami.
Adam Gase.
Right. And he has a top 10 defense. So I think Tannehill stays. I see Mariota going and being a backup in Seattle.
Wow.
I have nothing for that. That's actually wonderful.
Well,
good for you, man.
He fits the same profile as Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah.
It's the same type of quarterback. Although Russell Wilson is
supreme, yeah.
But I think as a backup insurance policy, he can do a lot of the same things that Russell Wilson can do
Without changing your
and
offense.
Pete Carroll
Yeah.
can sit him down, get his confidence back up. I mean, he went to school in Oregon, so you're back in a familiar area.
Yep.
And it just seems like that would be the perfect fit. Have him sit for a little while. If he starts to show something or Russell Wilson goes down, you trade him down the line, you get some picks. And that's what Pete Carroll will do that.
Maybe Nashville's just too much for him. It's too much craziness going on there.
I think he's worn out his welcome. I think he's frustrated. And you can see, with a lot of these quarterbacks, sometimes when they get a change of scenery,
Yeah.
they come back.
Let's
Such as Tannehill.
Start to do something there a little
Yeah.
bit differently. So
But he fits that.
yeah. All right. You know what? And Ray Party, I'm going to have you start the next one too, because you actually talked to me off air before we started this about the next tandem of Drew Brees and Teddy Bridgewater. What do you see out of that one?
Breeze is the mayor of New Orleans. Man.
Yeah.
He stays.
Stays.
Bridgewater leaves, though, right? And I think the best fit for Bridgewater, because I think Ray Nation said before on a show previously, from a win-loss record, Bridgewater wins.
Yes.
And I'm going to tie this back to the first segment. I think Bridgewater in Indy makes the most sense. There's your franchise quarterback. He knows how to win, and that further opens the window for your Super Bowl run.
Nice, dude. Nice. Ray Nation, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, I have to agree. Drew Brees stays. Teddy Bridgewater is going to go, but he's going to get a job because, I think he may replace Andy Dalton in Cincinnati.
That's
That was
also a
going to
good
be my
one.
guess.
Very
a good one.
interesting.
I think he would replace him well over there, and he deserves a shot. I mean, he showed that he can still play, and he's remained healthy throughout the year, so we'll see. He's definitely got to get a chance somewhere, though.
Yeah, so you know what? You just mentioned Andy Dalton. Let's fire him in there. We've already seen what's happened in Cincinnati. That's a team that's got to do something to reset.
We got Bridgewater to Arizona, Steve says.
Bridgewater, Arizona. Okay.
I like
Say
that.
it.
Nah, I can't see
I
that.
can't see it just because of the Kyler Murray
Kyler
thing.
Murray's gonna
Unless
play.
Bridgewater backs up Murray.
Right,
Yeah.
but I think Bridgewater wants to start. He wants that.
He should start.
I think he deserves
Yeah,
that, though.
He's earned the right at this point.
It makes sense though. Bridgewater, Arizona, younger team, maybe, but I think they found their franchise quarterback.
Or even Bridgewater to Tampa Bay when they get rid of Jameis Winston.
I have an
Ooh,
interesting.
I got
What
something
about
for Tampa Bay?
What about Carolina?
Here's an interesting one. This is actually from
I thought Dalton
Here's
era.
from Bruno. Actually, this is Bruno up here. He's got #New England Patriots.
Ooh.
Yeah,
For
so
who?
I'm guessing Teddy Bridgewater. This just popped up just about less than
bad.
a minute ago. So I'm
I
thinking,
got Dalton to the Patriots.
That's actually, you know what? Bruno's actually got a point there, man. That wouldn't be a bad one because
not a
God
bad
only
one.
knows what happens with Tom Brady at this point.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they have enough film on everybody, right? Coaches.
it was
GMs.
only a matter of
They've got
time.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
They know
yeah.
exactly what Andy Dalton.
I'm saying Andy Dalton would fit in from a New England standpoint.
So you know what? Actually, I have a comment on here from somebody, but I'm going to wait for that comment. So Chris Mazzotti, I see it, buddy, but I'm going to let the guys answer this one. And lady, I apologize, Moss.
That's all right. You can call me
Answer this one.
anytime.
Answer this one real quick, and then I'll get to you, Mazzat. But Ray Nation, what about Andy Dalton? Where do you see him going?
Andy Dalton, I believe that Andy Dalton should go to Carolina. I think that he will go there. I think their new head coach, I don't know. Who do you give a chance? No, I'll tell you what. Let me say this: if Marvin Lewis gets a job again as a head coach in the NFL, I will boycott the NFL.
Wow.
I will be done.
Man,
I'll be
legit.
done. He does not. He does not deserve to be a head coach in the NFL for a long time.
That's legit.
He needs like at least a 5-year break to really think about the mistakes that he
Himself.
made in
about
Cincinnati
himself.
Think
for
about what you did.
18 years.
Yeah.
So
sit in the corner, think about.
because I was just thinking, like, what if they just reunite in Carolina, and that would bother me in so many ways. Because that would only further Andy Dalton's career in the wrong ways, just in a different location. So I think that Dalton to Carolina, Marvin Lewis stay out of the NFL.
There you go.
I don't think Andy Dalton's going to go anywhere. I think Andy Dalton is going to be signed for a 1-year contract, and they are going to draft a quarterback.
All right. So enough of the Ryan Finley era. I think we've seen enough of that one. Is that right?
You didn't even give him a shot, though. You didn't give him a shot.
Yeah, look, I'll
had 2 games.
I'll agree
not
partially. I'll agree partially with this, just because he had 2 games. But at the same point, you gave him 2 games with the Bengals, and that's a problem. You can't. I mean, you can't really gauge anything with that.
That's true.
You know, that's a tough one without having to give him anybody at all on that one. So now for Mazzotti's comment and Ray Pardee, this one's for you. He says Dalton to the Dolphins. What do you think of that?
Hell no. Because that's not bad. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I just think the direction they're moving in, they want their franchise quarterback in the draft. You have Fitzpatrick, who I would take over Andy Dalton.
Agreed.
So you're really not gaining. Well, he'll be cheaper than Dalton because Dalton's going to get a decent sized contract. Fitzpatrick's not.
Okay.
You're going to get your guy in the draft, and I have my own thoughts on who Miami should.
Who they should and should not
Tua,
pick. Yeah.
right? I think Jalen Hurts, but that's me. But you keep Fitzpatrick for another year. He's only going to cost you the same as Trubisky, right? Have him mentor whoever you pick at that point in time. Kind of do the Brett Favre, although he's not Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing. But Dalton wouldn't be a bad option. I just think they want a long-term, younger quarterback.
Well, sure.
You don't want to root for the Red Rocket every week?
The Red Rocket belongs in New England with the rest of the assholes.
I got nothing on that one.
Right,
Yeah, there
this
you
is
go.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, they already know exactly what he's doing all the time because they've recorded it all. But that's okay.
Maybe that's what they're doing. They're doing their due diligence on their
That's what
future
I'm
quarterback
trying to-
there.
I'm trying to
So,
tell
so
you.
maybe that's it. Dalton to that one. So
Is that the excuse?
that's what we're going to go with.
Okay.
We shouldn't have said that on radio because I'm sure Belichick's going to come out with it now. He's going to take it as his own idea. Like, hey, next time you get caught by an opposing team's scouting crew, this is the
it's
excuse you
scouting.
use. We're looking, you know. So, just do maybe 1 or 2 more of these real quick. We'll go to the coaches real fast.
Okay.
So, one that was recently fired from the Carolina Panthers that we're talking about, Ron Rivera. What about him? What do you see? Anybody see him getting a job anytime in the near future?
I do.
Not next year.
Not next year.
Nah.
He's gonna sit in the
needs to
corner.
he's got to take a year off too.
Take a year.
Yeah. Riverboat
I think he should
Ron.
take his whole career off.
Riverboat Ron.
Yeah, it's over with for Riverboat Rip.
I'm saying the Giants. I think that makes the most sense. He brings a toughness to that team. He's obviously developed quarterbacks before, Cam Newton. So I feel. I'm sorry. I know you don't like him.
Sorry.
I feel.
I'm sorry. Did you say develop quarterbacks?
You don't think he's developed?
Cam Newton?
Yeah.
I don't think he's developed.
So no MVP. He's not.
That MVP.
I need you
That
guys
was
to
a
take.
fluke.
I need
It
you
was
guys
a
to take your
fluke.
personal feelings out from his.
Can't take our
collegiate-
personal
What has
feelings.
Cam Newton done
Collegiate
since? What has he done since that?
He
injury?
dresses interestingly.
Yes.
But
Yes, he does.
I think Rivera to the Giants would work.
I'm just more or less loving that the disgust on these two faces
that
right
was
now
first-
are both SEC fans
Yeah.
of other teams.
I just don't think that Cam Newton. He wants to be a starter still,
Right.
and he has the talent to be a starter, but does he have the mindset to be a quarterback?
He does.
Does he?
Yeah.
He's not all in.
In Las Vegas.
You're all-
Game, set,
you
match.
want everybody.
that
there.
Las
Vegas?
Vegas.
Yeah, you want everybody. there.
Vegas.
I mean, I would love to
For Cam Newton.
watch him play the Broncos twice a year. That'd be great.
Yeah, okay.
Your buddy Steve, I actually completely agree with him that Rivera will be a defensive coordinator. Will not get a head coaching position. I agree with that.
I actually agree with this, and as stupid as that is, this is crazy talk here. But I actually believe that Leslie Frazier, the current DC in Buffalo, is going to get a head coaching job, and Ron Rivera is going to take his spot.
Not bad.
With the old marriage of Sean McDermott and the Carolina Panthers, I really think that's actually going to happen.
Leslie Frazier, where was he before Buffalo? He was in Minnesota.
He was a head coach in Minnesota.
I
before.
remember
Yeah.
that.
So
Okay.
it didn't go well, but at the same, that doesn't mean he hasn't done enough to deserve
Another chance.
Yeah. He's done well in the last 2 years. So
Mike Zigarelli does not want him in the Giant. And
no
Well,
more.
they're
for him
doing
in
a
the
bang up
Giants, huh?
job with everything else, right? So why wouldn't you want consistency and toughness for the Giants?
Yes. We don't talk to Giants fans right now, Mike Zigarelli. You're done for the night.
You're done.
Not after that letdown last night, brother.
You won't shut down Saquon
Yeah.
Barkley.
Yeah,
You're
so-
going to injure his career.
It's already injured. They brought him back too quick from that ankle sprain. I'll stick to that to the day I die. Last one here. This has been the big rumor mill. Jason Garrett. What about him? I mean, I know he's got the job still, but what do we really actually truly see happening with Jason Garrett right now?
His job is totally dependent on how far the Cowboys go this year. If they get to the playoffs and somehow make it to the NFC Championship, he keeps his job. Anything below that, he's got to go. He's got to go.
Yep.
Time is done. It's
I'm
over.
still going to stick to what I've been saying all year long, and I don't think Dallas is making the playoffs. So I think he will be gone. They got to do it. They just have to.
You got to rip
Jerry
the
Jones,
Band-Aid.
you
He's
got
terrible.
to do
Yeah.
it.
Well, I'm on record saying Dallas gets Lincoln Riley or Urban Meyer, right?
Yes.
So
Oh,
Garrett's
boy.
gone. Garrett's gone.
Yes.
Jacksonville.
You actually see him getting an immediate job, or a year down the road?
Yeah. Yeah, which is terrible, by the way. But you're talking about franchises that make terrible decisions
Yeah.
besides Gardner
That's
Minshew.
true.
Jacksonville makes terrible decisions.
Doug Marrone for Jason Garrett would be one of the worst things that Northern Florida could have ever done.
But
No, there was something else they did really bad, but I won't talk about that. Not drafting a specific person from Florida.
Tim Tebow.
She just
Let it go, man.
She just loves.
You
that
want me
holy
to stop
soul,
with Pat
you know?
Sajak?
Let's not go there.
I want
though.
him to stop with Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Before,
Sorry,
before we go
Jamie.
down this horrible road of quarterbacks that throw 6 passes a day in the NFL, so let's go back to Denver on that one for Tim Tebow. We're going to do a little bit of IR, and yes, this is totally self-indulgent because I have the buttons.
There you go.
All right, guys, and yet another quiet week for the injury report. Not a ton happened that was really, call home about. So I figured I'd poll the guest panelists before we started and talk about something that we've heard in the past and really don't know too much about. And I settled on what a hip pointer is. It's a rare injury that doesn't happen too often, but every now and again it will pop up that such player is out for a quarter or two because of a hip pointer, if not for the remainder of the game. Now, first off, the way a hip pointer happens and what it actually is. It is a deep bone contusion to the iliac crests, which are the upper portion of your hip bones. And it is caused usually from an aggressive hit where the player hits so directly on it that the force of it alone, it actually bruises not only the soft tissue that lays over the top of it, but also the bone underneath it. Now, anytime you get a bone bruise to that level, there's a lot of inflammation, a lot of tenderness, and it could actually hinder some mobility and movement to that, depending on the location that this is going to be. But as far as a hip pointer's recovery time or any prognosis that they have, this is generally not a long-term injury that anybody's going to have. Depending on how deep and how severe the bruise is, we're talking anywhere from maybe 3 to 4 weeks at the most significant. Usually the swelling subsides within a few days, and they're well and able to come back within a week. Which of just rest and recovery type of thing, some anti-inflammatory medication, ice, nothing too much on top of that. So long-term prognosis for the hip pointer is actually very good. So any of those who have ever suffered from one, they'll be all right to get right back out in the field within just a matter of a couple weeks at worst for the most part. So that is basically it for this week's IR. I'm Jamie, and we will be right back on 3 and Out.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome, or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar, brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.
Who the hell are you? You know. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You all know exactly who I am.
Talking about house money, brother. But we gonna come to you and we gonna bring it to you like this.
Say my name.
All right, so for this week's House Money, I'm going to focus on a specific division, change it up just a little bit. This week, it's going to the NFC North. So, Seattle appears to have an easier expected matchup with the Carolina Panthers this week with, firing of Ron Rivera and a quarterback that has not played well at all. I like Seattle minus 4.5. The Rams and Cowboys, who are both trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, are in a must-win situation this week. I like the Rams here plus 4. And the San Francisco 49ers, which I have been against all season. I'm finally on the boat. They get one of their easier matchups for the second half of the year, playing an abysmal Atlanta Falcons team. So I like them in a blowout. Take the Niners minus 11. And for those, just so I don't leave any team out, I'm going to give a little bonus here. Arizona Cardinals are playing the Cleveland Browns this week, and I got a feeling, I just have this feeling that Arizona's going to win this one at home, so take Arizona plus 2.5. And there you have it, folks. That's this week's House Money.
Did I just hear Ray compliment the San Francisco 49ers?
Let's make sure that doesn't get
Finally.
I hate it. I hate it. Because I get text messages from the very two faithful Niners fans that I know. They're like, "Oh, do you believe yet? Do you believe yet?" And I'm like, "All right, man.
All right, I'll finally admit it in week 15.
Yeah.
Well, going into week 15, I should say.
You know what? What I don't want to happen is that I finally believe, and then they get to the playoffs, and then they lose that first game, and then I'm going to be like, "I told you guys the whole time. I told you." I don't want that to happen, but
That's like the old fantasy football adage. Is if you have a fat winning streak, the one thing you don't want to do is win all the way
through.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because you're gonna blow the first round.
Sure.
It happened in our keeper league a few years ago, where I think I was 12-1, and then I played you in the first round and got my ass handed to me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. I'm still waiting for that 50. Anyway, and back to football one more time. So,
Yeah.
we just got a few minutes left here, so we're going to wrap it up with something that I noticed this past weekend that I think has been overly just egregiously poorly called. And on top of that, it's very inconsistent, and that has been the new flags for the pass interference rule. Now, I know in the preseason there was this drew some ire because I don't think they overturned any in the entire preseason, despite them trying to kind of work out the nooks and crannies of the whole ordeal that it was. And then the regular season started, and it seemed to be, at least from my viewing, equally as stupid. Anytime I saw a flag get thrown out there, it seemed to be that they were either losing the call, it was just like, nope, whatever the call was on the field, that's what it was, and they wouldn't overturn. After looking at some of the numbers, it seems that they have actually overturned a few of the calls over the past, but it's still not a great number that they're doing. But what I noticed this past weekend was two instances. Once watching the Bills and Ravens game, a pretty obvious, egregious pass interference on Robert Foster ending the third quarter, in which they had plenty of time to really review it throughout the entire Bills organization. And instead of coming back from break and throwing the flag, I thought that McDermott looked a little nervous to fire out that red challenge flag. And I thought it was like, I think that's more the timeout to him in the fourth quarter was a little more valuable than taking a risk, which I don't think on a play that could really hinder on it's game defining at that point, that's the way you want to coach your football team at that point. Nothing against him, but I think it's just the precedent is set with this rule. And then the second one that I had to go back and look at, unfortunately, was the Dolphins and Jets, in which this wasn't even a challenge flag, and I think this is far more egregious for this point, in which a third and long pass from Sam Darnold just meaninglessly and effortlessly hit the turf, and it didn't seem to be anything, and the refs got together and made the judgment call, because it was under 2 minutes, that it should be reviewed. It gets reviewed. Bam, pass interference sets up the inevitable game-winning field goal. The Jets win 22-21. Regardless of what you think about the teams or the records, it's a very meaningful game to everybody in Miami, especially for a team that has been written off as the worst team in football for the first 7 weeks and has really played some solid football since. Rallying around Coach Flores there. Yeah, I'm saying this. I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
Good thing you're sitting down.
Yes, this is a team that I personally do think is on the rise. I think they've done good things to actually boost it, and they are rallying around that team with after being pretty much shed. You know what I mean? So my question to you, my rant, I guess I could say to you guys, is based on the fact of what are some of the issues that we are seeing with this thing? Are they just doing it to appease the fans based on a really bad blown call from the playoffs a few weeks ago, or excuse me, a few seasons ago? Are they just trying to shut coaches up and say, hey, we took it into our own hands, we took a look at it, and this is still the outcome? Why is it such a colossal nightmare what they're doing? What's the problems? Anybody have anything for that one?
I think that they put the rule in there because they don't want anything as egregious as what happened to the Saints to ever happen again, because that literally stopped their playoff hopes. That was it right there.
Yep.
With that bad call. And that is going to be the intent. So we really won't see the benefits of the call until something bad happens in the playoff run. With that being said, there's at least one arguable pass interference in every game, because receivers and corners, they get a little physical, they put their hands on each other, and if their hands are on them and they don't catch the ball, the defense is saying it's good defense, the offense is crying for pass interference. And if they get their hand on the ball, the offense is crying that it's defensive pass interference. It's going to go both ways. So it'll never satisfy everybody.
No.
That's just the way any rule is, right? But I will say there was another one in the Bengals game. Jesse Bates got an interception that was ruled pass interference, and they negated the interception. And
I didn't see that.
Now, mind you, it's the Bengals, right? So, whatever. Yeah. But, he was excited, and then all of a sudden they reviewed, and they're like, no interception, pass interference, and he was beside himself because it was a bad use of the overturn. Let me tell you, it was very bad. Yeah, there was contact, but they have to be able to. This is what I want to happen. When you have the review, you have to be able to identify, okay, did the contact disrupt the play?
Yeah.
If the contact disrupts it, fine. But if it doesn't, if it's just there, it's incidental, let it go. Let them play on. Especially when for a play like an interception, which because it's a turnover is reviewed anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like these overturns, I think they're not doing them properly. But hopefully, when it counts in the playoffs, they get the calls right. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I just think that unfortunately, just because of the percentage of times that it's not being overturned when the challenge flag is thrown by the coach is going to eventually make these coaches just not want to throw the flag. Like in Buffalo's situation where that timeout means more to them. So you're never going to see them throw this challenge flag anymore because they're going to go, what's the point? It's a waste of my time and it's a waste of a timeout. And then you're just not going to see what this rule was supposed to be meant for happen.
Yes.
And I think that's unfortunate. I think that they basically, the NFL put it in place just to appease the fans, just because they said, you guys keep bitching about it. Let's just make it, hey, well, you can challenge it and we can review it again. And then maybe we'll overturn it. But I think it's a waste. I do.
What about you, Ray?
I'm still speechless from the compliments. I almost wanted Ray Nation to ring the bell 'cause I had no idea. Like, you threw a curveball. I was prepared. I have notes. And it's just,
Boy, that goes on.
Wow.
Really
I really threw your head off there.
yeah.
didn't I?
So
Yeah.
I do think it was to shut up the Saints fans from last year. They caused a stink for, I think they still are, actually,
Yeah.
on Bourbon Street. But it was to shut them up. And what I don't understand about the pass interference, the new rule, right? It goes into play. I like it. It'll help out. So, and that was, you got to admit, that was one of the worst calls.
It was bad.
ever.
Yeah, it was very bad.
So then now you have all of the refs looking at it and somebody in New York looking at it, and they still can't get it right.
They can't get it right.
And then everybody that's watching as a fan knows it's pass interference, and then they call the opposite. And again, you're in two different locations. You have 5 or 6 refs there, and whoever's in New York that reviews it, you would think that they would be able to get that right. Like, I'm sure you don't see the internal argument between the refs and the people in New York, like, hey, no, that was pass interference. Like, no, it wasn't. I'm going to need you to calm down, pick up the flag. But they're both in unison. I don't know if they're protecting each other because a lot of the power is being taken away from the refs. So I don't know if there's like some type of power struggle going on.
Yeah, because New York, they would say, "Oh, you guys are wrong."
Yeah.
They don't want to do that.
And the refs take a lot of crap anyway. I mean, even if they get it all
why
right,
pile it on at this point, right?
if they get every call right, that's your job. You never get praise for getting everything right. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I think it is taken away from the game with how bad the calls are. It's you're losing something in that matter. Like, you're losing something when you're watching it. Like, is it all rigged? You start to ask questions that go conspiracy theory wise, but for somebody on the field to not get it right and then to have your backup in New York
Still
who has
miss it.
all the TVs, all the angles, still miss it, there's a fundamental problem.
Well, I think you almost just nailed the issue right there. Is now that it's a challengeable play, it's the same thing that they started doing when they would call the ball down, like a fumbled ball. They call it dead on the field. Now what you're seeing with the pass interference call is we're not going to call any of it because now you have that red hanky that you could throw if you really change it.
True.
So I've personally seen a lot of just gross pass interferences or pass
That are
interference
not
plays
called.
that aren't called
Yeah.
for that reason. And I believe under the idea is like, well, you think it is, throw that flag and see what happens.
Yeah, I dare you.
Yeah.
I dare you to throw the flag.
Go ahead, we'll look at it. Yeah, see what happens.
I agree with Ray though that no matter what you do, this Ray,
Nobody's going to
be happy.
No,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But man, that Saints Rams, that changed the course of a lot of things.
Sure. Now that one should have been called because it
that
was
was
egregious and it gave us,
terrible.
it gave us water cooler talk for a couple weeks after that, But at the same point, honestly, go do one of two things. Go back to 1980s football where they're allowed to absolutely murder each other, and it didn't matter. There was no such thing as pass interference unless somebody lost a helmet or leg. or arm or something like that, or do it the other way and just because this throwing the challenge flag makes no sense. Just let them make the damn calls. It just doesn't seem to be a great use of replay because you're just slowing the game down at that point to check every angle of everything.
Right,
for something you're not going to change.
It's not just slowing the game down, though. You're reinforcing that you're making the wrong call, though. You're hitting a double whammy.
Yeah.
You're making yourself look more foolish that now I can challenge this, and you're still getting it wrong.
Yes. And it's a mess.
In slow motion, high def 4K real time, you still get it wrong.
With 90 TVs,
Yeah.
including the one that Robert Kraft has, like on the sidelines.
In the Florida masseuse place?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there too. But
God.
he's apparently got him in Ohio as well. He had him in Buffalo earlier in the season as well.
Okay.
So it's all over. The cameras are everywhere. It's a wonderful thing. But even with that, going with that, I mean, here's a little bit of numbers. Me and Moss talked about it a little bit. You said you heard, is that correct? 8 of 48.
That's what they said last night. 8 of 48, which would be
48.
a little over like 16.5%.
16.5. But this is the funny part because I had to talk about this. I did a little research on top of that. Of those 48, 26 were thrown coaches' challenges. Just three were overturned, one way or another.
Miami's got one.
So that wasn't a coach's challenge technically. That was a booth challenge. So what you're telling me is that the booth challenges are still more effective than the coach's challenge. Just let them be a booth call then. I mean, really, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
To just,
It's slowing the game down. It's kind of a hot mess. The NFL has to look into it. But what's probably going to happen before that happens is another ridiculously bad call that gets screwed up, and then we're going to move on with life, and then we'll change the rules once again. But now I'm done with my rant, and I think I've hit every button back here.
let's just hope.
Maybe not the cues.
Let's just hope that they get it all right in the playoffs. I mean, I know the regular season counts too, but the playoffs and especially
what
the Super
matters,
Bowl,
yeah.
they really need to get all those calls right.
See, that makes me. I agree with you. The playoffs, I agree with both of you when you said that. But for somebody like me, you're playing your rival.
Yep.
It matters to the people in Cincinnati versus Cleveland, regardless of what your record is. The Jets are the most hated rival of the Dolphins.
That was a heartfelt moment.
I do want you to get it right for the playoffs, but it still matters.
I mean, every game matters because no matter if that team is in playoff contention, it could affect another team that could be in playoff contention. So
that is true. So far, at least from my knowledge, it hasn't. But we'll see. We'll see what goes forward. But yeah, we'll move on with that, and let's get what you're watching, guys, before we move on. Moss, what about you? What are you watching this week?
Oh, Jamie.
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm watching this week.
I was hoping you wouldn't mention this.
And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to watch it in the same room. But that, of course, is Buffalo versus Pittsburgh.
Of course. So at the because I'll be at the Garage Bar. It's just a rite of passage at this point. I have to watch my games there, otherwise the Bills will lose.
Well, then maybe we should watch the game there.
Maybe we can.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding.
Garage Bar's closed.
Garage Bar closed. I'll make you a deal. I'll watch it on the back TV. That way we won't have to look at each other. So I'll just leave me 6 and we'll be all right.
Buffalo can do with another loss. Pittsburgh can't.
That's true. That is actually very true. Unfortunately, I've never been in this position, so I don't even know how to react. So, Ray Party, what about you, man?
Tennessee, Houston.
Great
Good.
game.
From a playoff implication, I think that has huge ramifications. Tennessee's 4 in a row.
Yep.
Houston's kind of up and down right now. So, I mean, that's going to be a huge game.
That is, and they play each other again in 2 weeks. Or, well, actually, 2 weeks from Sunday as well. So, lot riding on that entire division there. So, Ray Nation, what do you got, brother?
I'm going to watch that Rams-Cowboys game.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
I think that we're going to see either Jason Garrett lose his job or honestly, no, I think that I don't know. I think the Rams are going to cover 4, but the Cowboys could win by 3 and that still covers 4. So, them firing, I forgot to say before, the firing of their kicker.
Why? Is that the guy?
I don't get it.
Go? Yeah.
The guy hit 60-yarders 3 times, and you're going to drop him for a guy who got cut by the Patriots after a week? I mean,
I don't even think it was it wasn't really a week. He missed the one kick. And then I
They
think
just
he was
don't get it,
gone
man.
already.
They
They
had to blame it on somebody.
Yeah, it's got to go on somebody.
so dumb.
Well, it's a revenge game from last year in the playoffs.
Yes.
The Rams have been playing really good the past couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
Now they're unleashing Todd Gurley now, which is weird.
You know what's great, man. I actually heard the radio interview with Coach McVay after the post game. This is the greatest comment I've ever heard. A reporter asked him, like, "So we've noticed you've used Todd Gurley a little bit more over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been more productive for your offense. What do you have to say about that?" He goes, "Well, me not being stupid anymore." That was McVay's comment. He goes, "I'm not being stupid anymore."
And if I'm not
Right,
mistaken, they are only 1 game back
Yeah, they're
from
not-
Minnesota.
They are very
For the
tight.
6th spot.
They are very tight, and the Rams were one of my picks to still maintain that playoff spot. So I'm just saying, make me look like genius. Make me look smart, man.
Have you had like all 3 teams from the NFC West make it in? That's crazy.
That'd be great. Honestly, that'd be great, especially if it wasn't like a 9-7 squad. On top of that, if they can pull to that 10-6, maybe even 11-5. I think they only got 5 losses, if memory serves. So they can win out and get
Yeah,
to
they're
11-5.
8-5.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they got to play San Fran again. That's tough. Even though I know it's division, you can throw it off.
yeah.
That would be a tough game.
Yeah, that's every game is tough. The way this season has gone, you can never predict the NFL. So, for Raymond Party, for Erica Moss, for Ray Nation, I'm Jamie Ostinet, and this has been 3 and Out. We'll see you later.
We out.
Pat Sajak.